Welcome to the world of science fiction, where extraordinary tales come to life. Enjoy the journey. The thermal glider's engine coughed, sputtered, and died. Not now. You piece of... Peyton Cross yanked the steering column hard left, using the vehicle's momentum to coast toward a snow-covered emergency platform. The pizza bags in the back shifted dangerously. 27 degrees below zero, visibility down to maybe 10 feet, and his delivery van chose now to throw a tantrum. The radio crackled through heavy static. Weather adjustment commencing in T-3 minutes. All lower-tier residents are advised to seek shelter. Peyton slammed his fist against the dashboard. The engine wheezed back to life. That's right, baby. We've got mouths to feed. He patted the console like praising a stubborn dog, then gunned it back into the white void. The construction crew at Sector 7 wouldn't care that the upper cities had decided to play with the thermostat again. They wanted their calzones hot, and Peyton Cross delivered hot food in any weather. Guaranteed. Snow pelted the windshield faster than the wipers could clear it. Through the mess, the floating shadows of the upper cities drifted overhead like inverse mountains, their climate-controlled underbellies glowing soft gold against the perpetual gray. Up there, the purple-skinned seats probably lounged in gardens that simulated spring. Down here in the lower tier, humans and the poor scraped ice off their windows and prayed their heaters lasted another winter. 3 years on this frozen rock. 3 years since Earth. Since Maria. Since... The emergency brake engaged before his brain processed what his eyes saw. The glider skidded sideways, missing the overturned vehicle by inches. A Celestial-class hover car, the kind with heating coils in the seats and auto-navigation worth more than Peyton made in 5 years. The kind that never, ever came down to the lower tier. It lay on its side like a beached chrome whale, one door torn completely off. Expensive meant nothing to Navala's storms. They ate the rich and poor with equal appetite. Peyton should have called it in, should have driven on. The construction workers were waiting, and every minute in this storm drained his battery reserves. But through the missing door, half buried in a drift, he spotted a flash of purple. His feet hit the ground before he'd made the conscious decision to move. The cold punched through his thermal suit immediately, ice crystals forming on his stubble. He waded through knee-deep powder toward the wreck. A child, maybe 8 years old. Purple skin shot through with spreading white lines like cracks in fine china. A Sikh girl, and she was literally freezing to death, her body crystallizing from the inside out. Her eyes fluttered open when he reached for her. Violet irises struggled to focus. "Halt, commoner!" The words came out as barely a whisper through chattering teeth. One tiny purple hand raised in what she probably thought was an imperious gesture. "You stand. Stand before Princess Anna the First, heir to all snowflakes. Princess. Right." Poor kid was probably in shock, retreating into fantasy. Peyton had seen it during his Earth military days. Trauma made people grasp for control anywhere they could find it. "Okay, Your Highness." He stripped off his thermal jacket, trying not to think about how much the replacement would cost. "Let's get you warm." "This smells weird," she murmured as he wrapped her in it. Like cheese and tomatoes." "Pizza grease. Highest quality pizza grease in the lower tier." "Pizza?" Her forehead wrinkled. "Is that peasant food?" Despite everything, Peyton found himself fighting a smile. The finest peasant food money can buy. He lifted her. She weighed nothing, like holding a bird made of glass, and carried her to his glider. The heater sputtered but held. He cranked it to maximum and pulled back onto the road. Sector 7 would have to wait. The girl curled into the passenger seat, his jacket swallowing her small frame. The white cracks in her skin had stopped spreading, but they hadn't faded either, like someone had dropped her and tried to glue the pieces back together. "Where are your parents?" Peyton asked, navigating by memory more than sight. "Mama is..." She paused, seeming to choose her words carefully. Mama rules the winter. She's very busy, very important. I bet she is. Poor thing. Mother probably worked in one of the upper city climate control stations. Those sites worked brutal hours maintaining the weather systems. No wonder the kid had built up this elaborate fantasy about being royalty. You don't believe me? Not a question. She tried to sit straighter, but the movement made her wince. I am Princess Honora Iseline Frostwhisper, third of her name, heir to the throne of eternal winter, and you are. Peyton, delivery guy, first of his name. Her nose wrinkled. That's not a proper title. It's the only one I've got. His apartment building materialized through the storm, a concrete block that looked like it had lost a fight with the last 3 decades. He parked in the underground garage and carried Honora up 4 flights of stairs. The elevator had been broken since before he'd moved in. This is where you live? She looked around his 1-bedroom apartment with undisguised horror. But it's so small. Palace is being renovated. Peyton set her on his couch, which immediately made his place look even shabbier. Even half frozen and traumatized, she had a presence that made everything around her seem insufficient. He grabbed blankets from his closet, careful not to disturb the box labeled nursery that sat untouched in the corner. 3 years, and he still couldn't bring himself to open it or throw it away. You need to call someone, Honora announced as he piled blankets on her, to inform them that you've rescued me. Planning on it. He pulled out his comm unit. What's your last name again? Your real one? She huffed. I told you, Frostwhisper. No hits in the missing children database. No alerts about anyone looking for a purple-skinned girl. Strange, but not impossible. The upper cities and lower tier barely communicated beyond essential services. Are you hungry? He asked, setting the comm aside. Princesses don't get hungry. They experience royal appetite. Well, would your royal appetite appreciate some leftover pizza? She considered this gravely. I suppose I could sample the local cuisine, for diplomatic purposes. Peyton heated 2 slices while Honora explored his apartment with the intensity of an archaeologist discovering a tomb. She picked up everything. His coffee mug, a wrench he'd left on the counter, a photo frame turned face down on the shelf. Why is this backwards? She flipped it over before he could stop her. Maria smiled out from the glass, one hand on her swollen belly, standing in front of the house they'd bought for the baby. The house he'd sold, the life he'd abandoned. Who's this? Honora asked. Nobody. He turned the frame back around, harder than necessary. Pizza's ready. She watched him with those violet eyes that seemed too knowing for 8 years old, but accepted the plate without comment. Her first bite was tentative, careful. The second was larger. By the third, she was devouring it. This is... She paused, cheese stringing from her mouth in a decidedly non-royal manner. Acceptable. High praise from Princess Snowflake. Princess Honora, she corrected through another mouthful. Snowflake sounds like a pet's name. Do you have pets? No. Why not? They're a commitment. So? I don't do commitments anymore. She studied him with that unsettling intensity again. That's very sad. Eat your pizza. By the time she finished, her eyelids were drooping. The white cracks in her purple skin had faded to faint lines, barely visible unless you knew to look. She curled up on his couch, still wrapped in his jacket that probably cost more to clean than replace. I should sleep now, she announced. Princesses require proper rest to maintain their royal bearing. Right. Let me get you a pillow. You have to tuck me in. I don't think it's protocol. She arranged herself with elaborate precision, and you have to say goodnight properly. Good night, Princess. No, properly, like you mean it. Something in her voice cracked, just barely, the imperious mask slipping to show the frightened child underneath. Peyton found himself sitting on the edge of the couch, pulling the blanket up to her chin the way he'd practiced so many times on an empty crib. "Good night, Honora. Sweet dreams." "Good night." She yawned enormously. "Servant Daddy." The words hit him like a physical blow. He sat frozen as her breathing evened out, going deep and steady within minutes. Servant Daddy, like she couldn't decide whether she was playing princess or just desperately wanted someone to act like they cared. He should call the authorities, right now. Some upper city family was probably frantic, searching for their missing daughter. The hover car alone meant someone with serious credits. They'd want her back. Honora whimpered in her sleep, one small hand reaching out. Her fingers found his shirt and gripped tight, like she was afraid he'd disappear. Peyton looked at the comm unit, looked at the sleeping girl, looked at the box marked nursery that had traveled across star systems unopened. Tomorrow. He'd call tomorrow. Tonight, she was safe and warm, and that had to be enough. He carefully extracted his shirt from her grip and stood. "My room's better," she mumbled without opening her eyes. "What?" "For sleeping. My room at home. It has—" She yawned again. "Clouds on the ceiling. And stars that sing. Mama made them special." "Sounds nice." "You could see it, if you keep me." His chest tightened. "Honora, good servants get to see the palace. Bad servants get thrown in the dungeon." Her eyes opened just a sliver. "You're not bad, are you? Go to sleep." "That's not an answer." "Sleep, princess. That's a royal decree from Servant Daddy." A tiny smile curved her lips. "Okay." Within seconds, she was out again. Peyton stood there longer than necessary, watching her breathe. 3 years of empty apartments and cold pizza, and telling himself he was better alone. 3 years of that box in the corner, gathering dust like his ability to care about anything beyond the next delivery. Now, this purple-skinned child had crashed into his life, literally, calling herself a princess and him Servant Daddy, and he was actually considering, no. Tomorrow he'd do the right thing. Find her people, send her home. Tomorrow. He grabbed a beer from his refrigerator and settled into his armchair where he could watch her sleep. The storm outside was getting worse, wind howling like something dying. But inside, his apartment felt warmer than it had in years. Honora shifted, burrowing deeper into the blankets. "The dragons are coming," she murmured in her sleep, "but Servant Daddy will stop them." Tomorrow, Peyton told himself again, but even he didn't believe it anymore. The comm unit buzzed, emergency alert. The hover car had been found, registered to. The message cut off, replaced by static. The weather adjustment from the upper cities must have knocked out communications temporarily. He'd check in the morning, after breakfast, after making sure the cracks in her skin had healed completely. "Stop," he told himself out loud. "You can't keep her." From the couch, Honora made a sound that might have been agreement or might have been a snore. Her hand had found his jacket again, pulling it close like a security blanket that smelled of pizza grease and broken promises. Peyton closed his eyes. Behind his lids, he saw Maria's face. She would have loved this. Him accidentally acquiring a bossy alien princess who thought she could order him around. She would have said it was fate. That some things choose you whether you're ready or not. "I'm not ready," he whispered to the empty room. Honora's response was to curl tighter and mumble something about proper servant quarters and needs more pillows. Despite himself, despite everything, Peyton smiled. Tomorrow he'd figure it out. Tonight, for the first time in 3 years, his apartment didn't feel like a tomb. He dozed off in the chair, one hand hanging over the side toward the couch, unconsciously staying within reach in case she needed him, in case the dragons came. Outside, the storm raged on, but inside apartment 4B, a delivery guy and a princess slept through it, neither quite alone anymore. The door didn't open, it simply obeyed. Peyton looked up from the breakfast he was making, spatula frozen mid-flip as the deadbolt turned itself, the chain unlatched without touch, and the door swung inward like it had been waiting for permission all its life. The woman who entered made the air forget how to move. Purple skin, but not like Honora's bright violet. This was deeper, twilight caught in flesh, the color of winter dusk just before true night falls. She moved without walking, more like flowing, as if gravity was a suggestion she chose to acknowledge rather than obey. The temperature dropped so fast Peyton's next breath came out as vapor. "You're the human, harboring my—" She paused, eyes sliding to where Honora sat at his tiny dining table, wearing one of Peyton's t-shirts as a nightgown. "Niece." Not a question. Pure statement, delivered in a voice that could have frozen flame. Honora went rigid. "Aunt Vea, I was just— Papa Peyton was teaching me about scrambled eggs. They're bird embryos, but humans eat them anyway. Isn't that strange?" Papa Peyton. 3 days, and she'd already promoted him from servant daddy. The woman's eyes, Vea's eyes, narrowed slightly at the title. "She says she's a princess." Peyton found his voice, though it came out rougher than intended. "Kids, right? Great imagination." He gestured with the spatula, realized how ridiculous that looked, and set it down. "Want coffee?" Vea studied him like he was a problem to be solved. "I don't—" "Aunt Vea loves coffee," Honora interrupted. "She drinks it every morning, with 14 sugars." "I do not drink it with 14. 15? 20? Papa Peyton, make it sweet. Aunt Vea has a secret sweet tooth, but she pretends she doesn't because rulers have to look serious." Peyton poured coffee, muscle memory taking over while his brain tried to process the woman who'd walked through his locked door. When he turned back, she'd seated herself at his table with the same inevitable grace she'd entered with, like the chair had simply agreed to be beneath her. He set the mug in front of her. She wrapped her fingers around it. The coffee flash froze. The mug cracked. Ice crystals spread across the table's surface like reaching fingers. "Oops," Honora said brightly. "Aunt Vea does that when she's nervous." "I am not nervous." "You froze Papa Peyton's table." The temperature differential was unexpected. Peyton grabbed a dish towel, reaching to clean the spreading ice. Their fingers brushed, her Arctic cold against his warm skin. The shock shot up his arm, but not unpleasant, like diving into a cold lake on a hot day. They both jerked back. "Sorry," they said simultaneously. Honora giggled. "You both turned purple. Well, Papa Peyton turned red, but that's like human purple, right?" "Eat your eggs," Peyton and Vea said in unison, then looked at each other in surprise. The eggs were cold, frozen solid on Honora's plate. The girl poked them experimentally with her fork, producing a crystalline tinkling sound. Perfect! She bit into one like it was a popsicle. Crunchy! Over the next hour, Peyton learned 3 things. Vea had the worst poker face he'd ever seen on someone trying to lie. Honora was a master manipulator disguised as an 8-year-old, and something about this strange woman made his apartment feel less like a cave and more like a home. "She requires proper nutrition," Vea said, examining his pantry with obvious dismay. "Processed foods are insufficient for a growing child." She'd almost said something else. Princess, maybe. "Pizza is nutritious," Honora protested. "It has all 5 food groups: bread, cheese, meat, tomato, and grease." "Grease is not a food group." "Papa Peyton says it is." "Papa Peyton is incorrect." "Hey," Peyton protested, "I'm right here." Vea turned those impossible eyes on him. "Yes, you are." Something in the way she said it made heat crawl up his neck. By day 5, they'd developed a routine that shouldn't work but did. Vea arrived every morning at exactly 9 a.m., using the door like a normal person after Peyton asked her to please stop giving him heart attacks. She'd claim to be checking on Honora, then stay for hours, watching with badly hidden fascination as Peyton went about his normal life. You're holding the controller wrong, Honora informed Peyton as they played video games on his ancient console. You have to use your thumbs like this, not your whole hand like you're strangling it. This is how humans hold controllers. Well, humans are wrong. She demonstrated the proper technique, then shrieked as her character fell off a cliff. No! Stupid game! Stupid cliff! Stupid... The air pressure dropped. Peyton's ears popped. Snow swirled through his apartment despite all windows being closed. A miniature blizzard centered on one furious 8-year-old. Honora! Vea's voice cut through the storm like a blade. Control! But I was winning. Winners don't throw tantrums. You threw a tantrum last week. Aunt Melissa told me. You froze the entire council chamber. That was different. How? I'm an adult. That makes it worse. The snow settled, covering Peyton's furniture in a fine white layer. He looked at his destroyed living room, then at Honora's defiant pout, then at Vea's barely suppressed embarrassment. He laughed, really laughed for the first time in 3 years. What? Vea demanded. You two are exactly alike. We are not. We are not. They spoke in perfect unison, identical expressions of outrage on their faces. This only made Peyton laugh harder. I do not sound like that, Vea muttered. You literally just did the thing, Peyton wheezed. What thing? The imperious thing, the I'm royalty and I'm offended thing, Honora gasped. Aunt Vea, he's making fun of our regal bearing. I believe he is. Should we freeze him? That seems proportionate. They both raised their hands dramatically. Peyton held up his controller like a shield. Mercy! I'm just a humble delivery guy. Honora giggled first, then Vea's lips twitched, and suddenly all three of them were laughing while snow settled around them like the world's strangest family portrait. Day 7 brought spaghetti. I don't understand the purpose, Vea said, staring at the pot of boiling water. You heat the grain strands, then add cold sauce? Why not eat them separately? Because together they're better, Peyton said, stirring the pasta. Like us! Honora chirped from where she sat on the counter. Papa Peyton is the hot pasta, Aunt Vea is the cold sauce, and I'm the cheese on top. That's not how recipes work, Vea said. That's not how anything works, Peyton added. You two are no fun. When I'm queen, I'm making a law that everyone has to agree with my metaphors. When you're queen? Peyton asked carefully. Honora froze. Vea shot her a warning look. When I grow up, Honora corrected quickly. I mean, when I grow up, I want to be a queen. Of something. Maybe pizzas. Pizza queen has a ring to it. Dinner was chaos. Vea tried to eat spaghetti with a knife and fork like it was formal dining, cutting each strand into perfect segments. Honora slurped enthusiastically, getting sauce everywhere. Peyton watched them both, wondering when his life had become this strange sitcom. You have sauce, he told Vea, gesturing to her chin. She dabbed at it with precise dignity, missed completely. Other side. She tried again, failed. Here. Let me... He reached over with his napkin. Their faces were suddenly very close. Her breath caught. His hand hesitated an inch from her skin. Aunt Vea, your face is purple again, Honora announced. Well, more purple than normal. Like purple, like when you see that statue of Papa in the memorial garden. There's no statue, Vea said quickly, jerking back. Eat your pasta. But you said the statue has really nice shoulders. Pasta. Now. Day 10 changed everything. Peyton sang the lullaby without thinking, the one Maria had hummed while decorating the nursery, the one he'd tried to forget. But Honora had asked for a bedtime song, and muscle memory was a traitor. Stars are dancing in the sky, time for little ones to fly, in your dreams where dragons play, until the dawn brings a new day. That's beautiful, Honora murmured, already half asleep. Did your mama sing it? My wife did. Was going to. For our... He stopped. For your baby? Yeah. What happened to them? They went to the stars. Honora's eyes opened, surprisingly lucid. That's sad. But I'm here now. Does that help? His throat closed. Yeah, Snowflake, it helps. Can you be my real daddy? The words came out sleepy, unguarded. When no one's looking. I know you're human and I'm not, but maybe that doesn't matter. Mama says lots of things don't matter if you love someone enough. Your mama sounds smart. She is. You'd like her. She pretends to be cold, but she's actually really warm inside, like those chocolate things you made with the melty middle. Lava cakes. Yeah, Mama's a lava cake. Peyton tucked the blanket around her. Sleep now, princess. Not pretend? Not pretend. She smiled and drifted off. When he turned, Vea stood in the doorway, one hand pressed to her mouth. She fled to the balcony. He found her gripping the railing, knuckles white against the metal. I'm sorry, she said before he could speak. I shouldn't have listened. Privacy is... I don't know how to do this. Do what? Any of it. Her voice cracked. I rule winter across an entire planet. I can summon blizzards with a thought, freeze armies with a gesture, but I can't... She laughed bitterly. I can't braid my daughter's hair, don't know her favorite color, missed 7 birthdays because governing always seemed more important. You're here now. Am I? Or am I just playing at being normal? She turned to him, eyes bright with unshed tears that would probably freeze if they fell. She ran away because I canceled another birthday. A trade negotiation seemed critical. It wasn't. Nothing is, compared to her. You're learning. She calls you Papa. She calls you Mama when you're not listening. Vea's breath hitched. She does? Every night. Mama's probably doing something important. Mama's helping people. Mama will come when she can. I don't deserve... Hey. He stepped closer. You're here every day. You ate my terrible spaghetti. You let her teach you video games even though you obviously hate them. They're nonsensical. Why does the mushroom make you bigger? Mushrooms don't. He kissed her, partly to stop her mushroom rant, mostly because the moonlight turned her purple skin to silver, and her frustration was adorable, and 3 years of feeling nothing had suddenly become feeling everything. She froze, literally. Ice spread from where their lips met, crackling across his stubble, down his neck. Then she melted, also literally. The ice turned to steam as she pressed closer, her hands fisting in his shirt, hot and cold, human and see it, broken and healing. When they parted, gasping, snow swirled around them in a perfect spiral. That was, she started, Aunt Vea and Papa sitting in a tree. Honora sang from the doorway, Kissing. You're supposed to be asleep, they said in unison. Can't sleep, too excited. Are you married now? Is that how human kissing works? Can I be the flower girl? Day 12 brought the first warning. A frozen rose on his pillow, so cold it shattered when he touched it. No sign of forced entry, but ice crystals spelled out a message on his window. The bloodline must remain pure. Peyton didn't tell Vea. She was finally relaxing, finally laughing. Yesterday she'd helped him with deliveries, disguised in his spare uniform, delighted by the mundane humanity of it all. They're happy you brought them food, she'd marveled. That old man actually hugged you. Mr. Adams always hugs me. His kids live off planet. On my world, no one touches the... She'd caught herself. No one hugs food delivery people. Your world sounds lonely. It was. Past tense. The word had warmed him more than any thermal suit. Day 13 brought ice daggers in his van's engine, still fixable, still hideable. Day 14, everything shattered. The apartment door hung off its hinges, frozen so solid it had cracked down the middle. Ice covered everything, walls, ceiling, furniture. But this wasn't Honora's chaotic snow or Vea's controlled frost. This was violence made tangible. Honora! No answer. Peyton's work tablet lay on the floor, playing a message on loop. Vex Polar Wind had Honora. The video showed her in a cage of ice, frost cracks spreading across her purple skin again. Papa! Her voice was small, frightened. I'm not pretending anymore. I really am a princess. My mama is the empress, and you're just a delivery guy, and I lied, and I'm sorry, but you're still my papa, right? Even if I'm not really nobody special. Even if I'm somebody special. Please don't hate me. The video cut to a man's face, purple skin so pale it was almost white, eyes like Arctic death. The human corrupts our future. Come alone, Empress, or lose both. Peyton stared at the frozen ruins of his home, at the crayon drawings on his wall covered in ice, at the controller Honora had been using that morning. The door repaired itself with a sound like winter breathing backwards. Vea stood there, no longer pretending to be anything but what she was, power incarnate, fury in female form. You know, Peyton said quietly, that Vex has her? Yes. That she's really a princess. She's really the princess, my daughter, heir to the frozen throne. Vea stepped into his apartment and every piece of ice sublimated instantly into vapor. Are you angry? That you lied? That she's not the nobody you thought you were saving? Peyton laughed, dark and bitter. Vea, I lost my nobody, my wife, my unborn daughter. They were nobody to the universe, but everything to me. He met her eyes. I don't care if Honora rules galaxies. She calls me Papa. That's all that matters. Vex will kill you. You're human, fragile, warm-blooded, everything he despises. Then I'll die her father. Vea kissed him again, desperate this time. When she pulled back, her eyes blazed with determination. No, you'll live as her father. We're getting our daughter back. Our daughter. The words settled in his chest like coming home. Together? He asked. Together. Outside, the eternal snow of Nivalis fell harder, as if the planet itself held its breath. Peyton's delivery van shouldn't have been able to climb a 40-degree ice wall, but here they were, thermal treads screaming against frozen stone while Vea held the vehicle steady with controlled wind bursts. This is insane, Peyton muttered, fighting the wheel as they approached Vex's fortress, a converted weather station that loomed over the lower tier like a frozen fist. Yes, Vea agreed, her hands glowing with barely contained power. But it's our insane. The van crested the wall and slammed onto level ground. Through the windshield, the fortress stretched upward into the storm clouds, its surfaces smooth as glass, impossible to climb without... Papa Peyton? He grabbed the radio so fast he nearly dropped it. Mr. Adams? My grandson says you need help. Says the little purple girl who draws him pictures is in trouble. Mr. Adams, you can't. Already here, boy. Brought friends. Below them, lights flickered on throughout the lower tier. Dozens of vehicles, delivery trucks, construction rigs, even a few stolen upper city haulers converged on the fortress's base. What is this? Vea breathed. Community, Peyton said. Something Vex wouldn't understand. His radio crackled again. Different voice this time. Maria from Sector 7. That purple kid taught my boy to read, Peyton. Used some bossy princess voice, but it worked. We're returning the favor. Then Jorge. She shared her lunch with my daughter when we couldn't afford... People, Peyton cut in. Thank you, all of you. But this is dangerous. So's living in the lower tier, Mr. Adams interrupted. Least this danger means something. We'll keep his guards busy. You get your girl. The fortress's main gates erupted in chaos as 30 vehicles hit them simultaneously. Alarms shrieked. Guard posts activated. Every automated defense system focused on the mob at the front door, which left the loading dock at the back completely unmanned. Now, Vea said, They abandoned the van and ran through the service entrance. Inside, the fortress was all hard angles and frozen surfaces, built for efficiency rather than comfort. Their breath misted in the sub-zero air. "Can you sense her?" Peyton asked, thermal charges ready in both hands. "Upper levels. She's—" Veya's face contorted. "She's fighting him. Her power against his restraints. She's losing." They found the elevator shaft frozen solid. Peyton didn't hesitate, planted 3 charges, grabbed Veya, and dove behind a support column. The explosion shook the entire structure, showering them with ice shards and opening a hole they could climb through. "Stairs might have been easier," Veya said, brushing frozen debris from her hair. "Stairs are for people who knock on doors. I knocked on your door, eventually, after magically opening it first. Details. They climbed. 5 floors. 10. Peyton's human body struggled in the thin, frozen air, but every time he slowed, he heard Honora's voice from the video. "You're still my papa, right?" Floor 15 opened into a vast chamber. At its center, Vex stood beside a cage made of living ice, its bars pulsing with cold that went beyond temperature into something that attacked the very concept of warmth. Inside, Honora knelt, frost cracks spreading across her purple skin like a broken doll. Her small hands pressed against the bars, each touch spreading the cracks further. "Mama?" Her voice was barely a whisper. "Papa!" "Such corruption," Vex said without turning. He wore military dress, all sharp edges and frozen metals. "The heir to our empire, calling a human papa. You've destroyed her, Veya. Let her go." Veya's voice could have frozen suns. "So you can raise her among humans? Teach her their weakness?" Vex finally faced them. His pale purple skin looked like ice given form, his eyes empty as winter nights. "I loved you once, Veya, would have given you perfect children, pure children. Instead, you rut with this—" The thermal charge hit him mid-sentence. Not enough to hurt him, Seatskin was tougher than that, but enough to fill the air with steam, blinding him momentarily. "You talk too much," Peyton said, already moving. Vex snarled, sending ice spears through the steam. They missed. Peyton had already rolled left, planting another charge near the cage's base. Not to break it, that might hurt Honora, but to create more chaos, more steam, more confusion. "You think your primitive tools can defeat me?" Vex gestured and the temperature plummeted. Peyton's next breath felt like swallowing glass. "I am winter incarnate. I am—" Veya's fist connected with his jaw, sending him spinning. "You're a secretary with delusions of grandeur." They fought like forces of nature. Vex summoning walls of ice that Veya shattered with focused heat, her creating whirlwinds that he froze solid. The chamber became a war zone of conflicting temperatures, ice and steam and fury. Peyton ignored it all, focused on the cage. The bars burned his hands even through thermal gloves, cold so intense it registered as heat. But Honora was inside, dying, and nothing else mattered. "Princess," he said, pressing against the bars despite the pain. "It's Papa. I'm here." "You came." Tears froze on her cheeks as they fell. "Even though I lied." "You didn't lie. You're a princess. But you're also my weird kid who puts pineapple on pizza and insists it's royal tradition." She laughed, or tried to. It came out as a cough. "It is royal tradition. I made a decree." "Of course you did." His hands were going numb, nerve damage probably permanent, but he kept pulling at the bars. "Remember what you told me about servants? Good servants don't give up. And what am I? The best servant, the best papa." Her eyes fluttered. "Even if I'm too special?" "Nobody's too special for family." Behind them, Vex screamed. Peyton glanced back to see him suspended in a sphere of rotating ice, Veya standing beneath him with her hands raised, looking like an avenging angel carved from winter itself. You never understood, she told Vex. Power isn't about purity. It's about protection, and you threatened what's mine. The sphere contracted. Vex's scream cut off. Is he dead? Peyton asked. Frozen. He'll thaw in perhaps a century, unless global warming accelerates. Dark. He touched my daughter. Vea approached the cage, placed her hands over Peyton's destroyed ones. Together they pulled, human determination and see-it power. The bars cracked, stuttered, and finally shattered. Honora fell forward. Peyton caught her. God, she was so light, so cold, and then her power exploded. Not consciously, not controlled. A dying body's last attempt to save itself, pulling on inherited abilities it couldn't handle. The chamber's temperature dropped to absolute zero. The walls cracked. The ceiling began collapsing as ice expanded through every microscopic flaw in the structure. Outside, the eternal snow of Nivalis became a hurricane, winds that could strip flesh from bones, cold that could stop hearts mid-beat. She can't control it, Vea shouted over the roar. Her body's too young, the power's tearing her apart. Then we control it for her. Peyton pulled Honora against his chest, wrapping his ruined hands around her small frame. Together. He couldn't manipulate weather, couldn't summon snow or command winter, but he could be warm, could be steady, could be the anchor in the storm. Honora! Listen to my voice, princess. Remember the lullaby? Stars are dancing in the sky. Time for little ones to fly, Vea joined in, wrapping them both in her arms, her power creating a bubble of calm in the chaos. In your dreams where dragons play. Until the dawn brings a new day. Honora's voice was barely audible, but she was singing, still fighting, still there. The storm pulsed, fought, raged against their small bubble of family. Peyton felt his body temperature dropping, hypothermia setting in. Vea's power flickered as she tried to contain their daughter's unleashed fury. Papa's here, he whispered into Honora's hair. Mama's here. You're safe. Come back to us. Together? She asked. Together. The storm broke like a fever. One moment, apocalyptic fury. The next, gentle snow falling through the holes in the ceiling. Honora went limp in his arms, but her chest rose and fell steadily. The frost cracks on her skin faded to thin white lines that looked like scars from a battle won. Papa, she murmured. Did we win? Yeah, princess, we won. Good. Can we have pizza now? I'm hungry. Saving the world makes me hungry. Vea laughed, exhausted and relieved. You didn't save the world. I saved our world, Honora corrected. Our family world. That counts. Hard to argue with that logic 6 months later. Papa, the pancakes are burning. Peyton jerked awake to find smoke filling the kitchen and Honora standing on a chair, wielding a spatula like a sword against the offending breakfast. They're not burning, he said, rescuing the pan. They're caramelizing. That's what you said last time, and the time before, and, okay, they're burning. He dumped the charred remains and started over. Where's your mother? Throwing up, again. She says the baby doesn't like mornings. Your sibling has good taste. Hey! Vea emerged from the bedroom, wearing Peyton's robe that had become hers by conquest rather than gift. Her usually perfect hair stuck up at angles that defied physics, and her hand rested on the gentle swell of her belly. Mama! Honora abandoned the spatula to hug her mother's waist. The baby's making you all glowy. That's not glow, that's exhaustion. Same thing, Peyton said, kissing her cheek. Breakfast? Nothing that requires chewing. Smoothie it is. They'd kept the lower-tier apartment despite Vea technically owning several palaces. Added a few upgrades, working heating, a door that actually locked, windows that kept out the cold, but remained in the place where they'd become a family. Is Uncle Vex still frozen? Honora asked, setting the table with what she called royal precision. Forks exactly parallel, napkins folded into swans. Misshapen swans, but swans nonetheless. Very frozen, Vea confirmed. Good. He was mean. Mean people should be frozen. That's not how justice works, Peyton said. It is if you're the princess. We've talked about this. No freezing people who annoy you. But Taylor called me a purple popsicle. Still no freezing. What about just his shoes, while he's wearing them? Honora. Fine. She huffed dramatically, then brightened. The baby kicked. Feel. She pressed her small hand against Vea's belly, face screwed up in concentration. There. Did you feel it? That's your mother's stomach growling. No, it's the baby. They're saying hello. She leaned close to Vea's belly. Hi, baby. I'm your big sister. I'm going to teach you everything. How to make snow angels and play video games and trick Papa into making pizza for breakfast. I've never made pizza for breakfast. Yet, Honora and Vea said in unison. I'm being ganged up on. You chose this, Vea reminded him. You could have called the authorities that first day. And miss this? Never. Never ever? Honora asked. Never, ever, ever. Even when I accidentally froze the toilet? Even then? Even when Mama turned the living room into a skating rink? That wasn't accidental, Vea admitted. You said it was. I lied. Your father had just beaten me at that ridiculous racing game. You froze our apartment because you lost at Mario Kart? Peyton stared at her, temporarily, and only the floor. The walls, too, Honora added helpfully, and the ceiling, and Papa's Xbox. Traitor, Vea told her daughter. Truth teller, Honora corrected. Papa says honesty is important. Papa's a bad influence. Papa's right here, Peyton said, flipping a perfect pancake. And Papa says breakfast is ready. They ate together, Honora chattering about school. She'd insisted on attending a lower-tier public school rather than upper city academy. Vea making subtle faces at the sweetness of the syrup, Peyton watching them both and marveling at how his empty life had become this full. Papa, Honora said suddenly, do you miss Earth? The question caught him off guard. Sometimes. Why? Taylor said humans don't belong here. Said we're too different. Taylor says a lot of things, Vea noted darkly. But is he right? Are we too different? Peyton considered. Outside, the eternal snow of Nivalis fell steadily. Inside, a human sat at a table with the former Empress of Winter and her daughter, soon to add another impossible child to their impossible family. Yeah, he said finally. We're different. I can't control weather. You and your mom can't handle spicy food. I need more heat. You need more cold. So Taylor is right? Honora's face fell. No. He's wrong about the important part. Different doesn't mean we don't belong together. He reached across the table, taking both their hands. It means we have to work harder, compromise more, learn each other's languages, but that makes us stronger, not weaker. Like pancakes and syrup, Honora said solemnly. Exactly like, wait, what? Different things that go together. Papa's the pancake, Mama's the syrup, I'm the butter, and the baby is, what's the baby? The plate? Vea suggested. Mama, the baby can't be the plate. Why not? Because plates aren't food. Neither are babies. But they argued about breakfast metaphors while Peyton cleaned up, occasionally contributing unhelpful suggestions that made Honora more indignant and Vea more amused. Normal morning chaos in an abnormal family. His comm unit buzzed. Delivery request from Mr. Adams. Peyton smiled and accepted it. Work? Vea asked. Yeah. Want to come? Can I drive? Honora asked hopefully. When you're older. I'm 8 3/4. When you're 18 3/4. That's forever. That's the point. Vea stood, stretched, then froze. Oh. What? My water just broke. Peyton dropped the plate he was washing. But you're not due for... Tell that to your child. Our baby's coming, Honora shrieked. Apparently, Vea said with remarkable calm for someone going into labor. Though I'd appreciate less screaming and more towel fetching. Towels, right. Papa, get towels. I'll get ice. Wait, do we need ice? Mama makes her own ice. What do I get? The hospital bag, Peyton said. Muscle memory from 3 years of preparation finally useful. Purple backpack in the closet. On it, this is the best day ever. Except when you and Mama got married, and when we all moved in together, and when… Honora. Bag. Now. She ran off, still listing best days ever. Vea gripped Peyton's hand, her skin colder than usual. Scared? He asked. Terrified. What if I'm as bad at this as I was with Honora? You're a great mom. Now, after missing 7 years, then we'll be great from day one with this one. He kissed her forehead. Together. Together, she agreed, then winced. But maybe quickly together? Your child seems to have inherited your impatience. They made it to the hospital in record time, Honora providing commentary the entire way about how she was going to be the best big sister in both the upper and lower tiers. Vea alternated between laughing and threatening to freeze everyone if they didn't drive faster. 8 hours later, as another eternal night fell over Navalis, Peyton held his son, purple-skinned with surprisingly human eyes, while Honora sat on Vea's hospital bed, staring at her baby brother in wonder. He's so small, she whispered. Was I that small? Smaller, Vea said tiredly. No way. Way. Papa, look! He grabbed my finger. He knows I'm his sister. The baby yawned, revealing toothless gums, and somehow managed to blow a tiny snow bubble that popped against Honora's nose. He's perfect, she declared. We're the best family in both kingdoms. Peyton looked at his wife, his daughter, his son. A year ago, he'd been alone, delivering pizza through endless storms, existing rather than living. Now he had this, messy, chaotic, impossible, perfect. Yeah, he agreed, pulling them all closer. We really are. Outside, the eternal snow of Navalis continued to fall, but inside room 307 of lower-tier General Hospital, a family that shouldn't exist by any logical measure proved that sometimes the universe knew better than logic. And for once, Honora's royal decree was absolutely, completely, perfectly correct. 10 years later, the doorbell rang at exactly 6 p.m., as it had every Thursday for the past decade. Uncle Vex is here, 8-year-old Thomas announced, racing to the door with all the enthusiasm his small body could generate. His purple skin shimmered with excitement, leaving tiny frost patterns on everything he touched. Don't run! Honora called from the kitchen where she was helping Peyton with dinner. At 18, she'd grown tall and graceful, though she still wore oversized hoodies and insisted on putting pineapple on everything. You used to run everywhere, Peyton reminded her, stirring the soup. That was before I understood dignity. You put googly eyes on the Prime Minister's portrait last week. That was political commentary. The door opened to reveal Vex, looking exactly as he had 10 years ago. Pale purple, severely dressed and perpetually disapproving. The century-long freezing had been commuted to community service after Honora testified that he was mean but probably not evil, just confused evil. Children, he nodded stiffly. Uncle Vex. Thomas launched himself at the former general's legs. Did you bring the ice sculptures? They are in the vehicle. Vex awkwardly patted the boy's head. Unhand me, small one. Make me. Thomas giggled, clinging tighter. This had become their Thursday routine. Vex would arrive for mandatory family dinner, part of his rehabilitation. Thomas would assault him with affection, and the former terrorist would pretend not to be slowly warming to the concept of family. Vex, Vea greeted from the doorway, 5-year-old Luna on her hip. You're late. By 30 seconds. Still late. Luna, whose skin was an interesting swirl of purple and pink, what the doctors called genetically unprecedented, reached for Vex with chubby arms. Up! I do not... Up! Vex sighed and accepted the toddler, who immediately began braiding his severely styled hair into tiny pigtails. You're getting soft, Vea observed. I am fulfilling my court-mandated obligations. You bought Thomas a bike last week. The child required transportation. It hovers. Basic transportation. Peyton emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on an apron that read, "Kiss the cook. He's already married to royalty but appreciates the sentiment." Vex, staying for dinner? As if I have a choice. You've had a choice for the last 3 years since your sentence ended. Vex said nothing, just adjusted Luna so she could better reach his hair. They sat around the extended dining table, a necessity after baby number 3 and with a 4th on the way, though they hadn't told the kids yet. Honora argued with Thomas about whether ice powers or snow powers were superior. Snow is just soft ice. Ice is just mean snow. While Luna methodically sorted her peas by size. Any word from the university? Vea asked Honora. Accepted to all 5. Honora tried to sound casual, failed completely. Full scholarship to Earth Imperial Tech. Earth? Peyton set down his spoon. That's far, I know. Honora fidgeted with her napkin. But they have the best xenobiology program, and I want to understand how we work, all of us. Human seat, whatever Luna is. A miracle, Luna announced. Mama says I'm a miracle. You are, sweetheart. Thomas is a miracle too? Everyone's a miracle, Thomas said wisely, then ruined it by freezing his brother's soup solid and trying to eat it like a popsicle. I could accompany her, Vex said suddenly. Everyone turned to stare. To Earth. For protection. You want to go to Earth? Vea asked carefully. I want... Vex stopped, started again. The child should not travel alone. I'm 18. You still eat cereal for dinner when left unsupervised. Cereal is a perfectly balanced meal. It's marshmallows shaped like unicorns. Fortified marshmallows. Peyton watched the argument with a smile. 10 years ago, Vex had tried to kill them all. Now he was volunteering to protect Honora at college. Time and persistent affection from 3 determined children had done what no prison could. Taught him that family wasn't about blood purity, but about showing up. Speaking of Earth, Peyton said, Mom called. She wants to visit. Grandma Helen, Thomas cheered. She makes cookies. And she thinks I'm actually a princess, Honora added, which I am. She also keeps asking when we're giving her more grandchildren, Vea said, placing a hand on her still flat stomach. Peyton caught the gesture, caught her smile. Are we? Surprise? Another baby? Honora shrieked. Where do babies come from? Luna asked. When a human and a site love each other very much, Thomas began. Nope, Peyton cut him off. Vegetables. Babies come from vegetables. I knew it, Luna glared at her peas. That's why Mama makes me eat them. After dinner, they migrated to the living room, the same apartment, though they'd bought the entire floor by now. The walls were covered in children's art, family photos, and one official royal portrait that Honora had defaced with a mustache. It needed personality. Story time, Luna demanded, climbing onto Peyton's lap. Which one tonight? The one about how you met Mama. Again. It's romantic, Honora said, curling up against Vea's side despite being taller than her mother now. It's mushy, Thomas complained, but snuggled in anyway. Even Vex stayed, pretending to read a military history while obviously listening. Once upon a time, Peyton began, there was a very grumpy delivery guy. You weren't grumpy, Luna protested. You were sad. Okay, sad delivery guy. And one day, during the worst storm ever, I was dying, Honora added dramatically. Actually dying. You were cold, Vea corrected. Dying of coldness. That's not a thing. It literally was. "Can I tell the story?" Peyton asked. "No," everyone said in unison, then continued adding their own versions. And then Mama walked through the door like boom. I knocked first, eventually. And Papa was all, "Oh no, she's pretty." I was not. "You absolutely were," Vex confirmed without looking up. "And then they kissed and had babies," Luna concluded. "There were a few steps in between," Peyton said. "Boring steps." "Hey." The evening wound down slowly, reluctantly. Vex left first, accepting Thomas's hug with minimal complaint and promising to teach him the ice sculpture technique next week. Honora retreated to her room to video call her girlfriend in the upper city. Her parents hate that she's dating beneath her station. It's very Romeo and Juliet. Please don't do anything Juliet did. Dad, I'm seat, not stupid. Peyton carried a sleeping Luna to her bed while Thomas insisted he wasn't tired, then fell asleep mid-protest. When he returned to their bedroom, Vea stood on the balcony, looking out at the eternal snow. "Regrets?" he asked, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "Never." She leaned back against him. "You?" "Well, I never did fix that delivery van properly." She laughed, turning in his arms. 15 years and you still make terrible jokes." "You love my terrible jokes." "I love you. I tolerate your jokes." "Same thing." They stood there, watching snow fall on the lower tier that had become their kingdom, not one of palaces and formal titles, but of Thursday dinners and bedtime stories and children who were miracles just by existing. "Honora's really leaving," Vea said quietly. "Yeah, we did okay with her. We did great with her. Even though I missed the first 7 years, the only years that matter are the ones we had together." Vea kissed him, soft and warm despite her perpetual coolness. "How did I get so lucky?" "You crashed into my life, literally. Best accident ever. Definitely better than the van breaking down. Everything's better than your van. Hey, that van brought us together. That van barely brought groceries home." They bickered lovingly as they headed to bed, checking on each child one more time. Honora texting under her blankets. Thomas spread eagle with one foot frozen to the ceiling. Luna cuddling the stuffed pizza Peyton had given her. Every princess needs a pizza, he'd insisted. As they settled into bed, Vea traced patterns on Peyton's chest. Another baby. Another miracle. We're running out of room. We'll make room. Peyton? Yeah? Thank you. For what? For opening the door that day. For keeping her. For keeping me. Vea, you literally opened the door yourself. With magic. You know what I mean? He did. Thank you for walking through it. Even though I was terrifying. Especially because you were terrifying. And beautiful. Terrifyingly beautiful. That's not a word. It is now. Royal decree. You're not royal. I'm married to royalty. That counts. Does it? Luna says it does, and she's the miracle baby. Can't argue with miracle baby logic. They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, human warmth and see-it coolness finding perfect balance. Outside, the eternal snow continued to fall on Nivalis, but inside apartment 4B, now 4B through 4J, the Cross-Frost Whisper family slept peacefully. In her room, Honora finished her college application essay. People ask me what it's like being the first human see-it hybrid family. I tell them it's like pizza. Seems weird until you try it. Then you can't imagine life without it. My dad was broken when he found me. My mom was lost. I was dying. Separately, we were 3 disasters. Together, we're a beautiful mess. We're proof that families aren't about matching DNA or controlling the same elements. They're about choosing each other every day, especially on the hard days. My papa taught me that humans don't control storms. They weather them. My mama taught me that power means nothing without someone to protect. And together, they taught me that love doesn't care about species or class or what makes logical sense. Love just is. And sometimes that's more than enough. Sometimes it's everything. She hit submit, smiled, and went to raid the kitchen. Peyton found her there at 3 a.m. eating cereal. Nervous about Earth? Terrified? Good. Being scared means it matters. Were you scared when you kept me? Terrified. But you did it anyway. Best decision I ever made after marrying your mother. And having Thomas. And having Thomas. And Luna. And Luna. And baby 4. Don't tell Thomas yet. He'll insist on naming it something ridiculous. Like what? Yesterday he suggested Frost Dragon Lightning McCawsome. Honora nearly choked on her cereal. That's amazing. That's not happening. But Papa, no. You're no fun. I'm tons of fun. I invented pizza breakfast. Mom invented pizza breakfast. Co-invented. They sat in comfortable silence, daughter and father who weren't supposed to exist together, in a kitchen that had seen 1,000 such midnight conversations. Papa? Yeah, princess. I'm glad the van broke down. Me too, Snowflake. Me too. Outside, for the first time in recorded history, the snow on Nivalis stopped falling. Just for a moment, just long enough for the stars to peek through. Then it resumed, gentle and eternal, covering their world in soft white peace. And in apartment 4B through 4J, the impossible family slept on, complete and whole and perfect in all their imperfect glory. The end, but really just the beginning.